Creating content without overwhelm is the number one question that I get asked by new business owners. When you're wanting to move online, you're wanting to start creating, so many people get stuck in this world of just social media. And we've spoken before on the channel about building your foundations, about having an offer that really sells, about having all of your sort of like systems in place. But it's really important to understand how to create social media as well. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Jackie Clark, and I have been running my online business for the last 7 years. And I want to talk to you about how to make social media and posting consistently really, really easy, because it's so important that you have a brand out in the world. It's so important that people can find you and make you a choice and know what you do and know who you are. But at the same time, it can feel super overwhelming to try and start creating content when you're not sure what you're posting, who to post for, how to post, how to get the most out of your content. So today, we're going to be talking about identifying your audience, understanding their needs, and then creating a content plan that actually suits the people that you want to talk to and can get your name out into the business and start making sales. So let's dive in. First things first, when we talk about identifying our audience. So we've got to sort of understand why this is important. Now, I'm not a massive fan on like niching all the way down with an inch of your life and putting yourself in such a tight box that you absolutely hate it and you don't want to do it. But I am a really, really big fan of you knowing who the person is that you want to help in the world. So regardless of how big or small that niche is, it's about tailoring your content to that person, to their interests, their language, the way that they talk, the problems that they have. And when you can start to get really specific about this, so for instance, for me, I help women who are moving into the online space who want to start a business. That's it. There's not a certain type of business. There's not a limit of, their age or where they are in the world. It's literally just a distinct understanding of the person who is going to need my help in the long run. Now, you can absolutely create like audience persona if you want, and have age categories and the types of interests and the challenges that they might be having, and where they might hang out. None of that stuff is bad, none of that stuff is wrong, but some people get so caught up in creating this persona that they actually like discount so many people that they could help, because they're like, oh no, this person has to have these interests and they have to hang out in this place and I'll only be able to find them here. And I remember when I first started my online business, I was so caught up in this idea of sales can only come through one place. So like I build a funnel, sales can come through my funnel, and that's how they come. And then I started to realize, like, oh my gosh, sales can come from so many other places. They can come from networking, they can come from me doing talks and going on people's podcasts, they can come from me sending out direct messages, or, cold calling, or there's so many ways that we can, it's like, find our audience and start having those conversations and building those relationships. So rather than being like so stuck in where they hang out or what they do, or that they have to be within a certain age bracket, I think when you're starting, the really key thing is, who do you want to help? Go out and find, like, go out and talk to those people, find those people. And then your data and your statistics will start telling you more about the people that you help. So I know, for instance, in my business, we do have like an age category, like a cutoff for the youngest person I've ever worked with and a cutoff for the oldest person I've ever worked with. It's not to say that I would never take anybody outside that bracket, but if I am going to start spending money on pushing my content out, I might only push it to people within those age categories, because they're most likely to actually spend money with me. So you can start to see how actually defining your audience can really help in this like idea of where you're placing your content. Another really big thing around this is this idea of, what are their challenges? What are your audience's challenges? Because this is how you start to understand the need that your audience has. And when you're understanding the need, like there's two kind of key things here. So one is doing the research, and then the other is the actual types of content that you create. So when we talk about research, it's really, really important that we understand what your customer actually needs. What are their pain points? What are they struggling with? What are their desires? Where are they trying to reach? Like, what are the things that are holding them back? Because if we can create content in this light, if we can create content from a place of, I know that my customer really wants to hit this particular goal, they really want to hit, consistent £2,000 months in their business. And in that process of hitting that amount of money, they want to do it with ease. They want to do it with systems. They want to do it in a way that doesn't take them, all of their time and just create them a whole nother job. So I'm going to be speaking to a very specific type of person. Now, as I go through, I can do research. So if I've already got a social media following, I can start to do surveys and polls on my Instagram stories or polls on my Facebook. I could start to do surveys and actually ask people. Maybe you're in a business community already and you could survey people. This is the topic that I'm talking about. What would be the key things you would be interested about? What are their biggest struggles? Like, if you've got customers already, survey them, ask them what are the things that they're struggling with, what are the things that, the beliefs that play over and over in their heads that they might need help with. Because all of this stuff is going to give you this ability to be able to write content that really resonates with your audience, to write content that really makes people think like, oh yes, this is what I need, this is, this is the person that can help me. And then you start thinking about, okay, how do we take these needs? How do we take what my audience wants and desires and the challenges that they have? And how do we write it into content? How do we write it into educational content, entertaining content, inspirational content, motivational content, like content that's actually going to start making a difference, but also give you the ability to understand what your audience prefers. So, what is it that they resonate with the most, and how do they consume your content? Because when we're looking, if we look at something like Instagram, which is my like favorite platform to be on, we've got so many different types of content that we can use. We can use reels, we can use static posts, we can use carousel posts, we can use stories, we can use lives, we can use broadcast channels. Like, there's so many different ways that we can interact with people. And then, within stories, we can do question boxes, we can do polls, like we can get people to answer questions. Like, there's so many things that we can do. But until you actually start to use these tools and start to test these tools, it's really hard to understand what your audience likes. So Instagram can give you like generic. So they'll say, reels are normally pushed to new followers, whereas static content is normally shown to your current followers. So you want to do reach type content where you're putting out the big idea and you're making the like the high level, like this is what you can get if you come and follow me in your reels, and like pushing out your lead magnets and like getting people into your audience. But then in your static content, you can go deeper. You can give people more. You can really kind of dive into like answering these questions that are the biggest pain points. You can go super educational. Like, there's so much that you can do. And when you think about like the inspirational content as well, like when you're sharing out testimonials, like you can do that through reels, but you can also do that in static. Like, there's so many ways that we can do this. And this is where we start to come onto this like idea of an actual content plan and actually thinking about how do we create these pillars and then create a calendar that suits the lifestyle, suits the business, suits how we're actually going to show up. So let's talk about content pillars first, and then we'll get into the actual calendar and how you can do this, because I think both of these things are important. So, your content pillars, and actually thinking about how you structure your content, is going to help you be consistent in your content creation. Okay. So you can have, I normally like to have 4 or 5 pillars that I talk about. And these 4 or 5 things will massively like indicate what conversations I'm going to be having and what content I'm going to be creating. So for me, when I think about this process and I think about what we're going to be creating, I always go down a very kind of similar path. So I will have content like this about social media and getting awareness for your business. I will have content about the systemization. I will have content about the foundations of hitting 2 to 5K months. And then I'll have content about the nervous system and healing work that comes with running a business and actually feeling comfortable enough to allow that money in, to allow the clients in, to say, yes, I am the expert in this. So I've got 4 kind of key pillars. And in those pillars, I will create different type of content. So once a week, I will create a YouTube video and that will cover these different pillars. When I'm doing my nervous system regulation type stuff, I will a lot of the time do a meditation for people. And then I've got the podcast, which comes out once a week, which is very much the nervous system, the healing, the toolbox for actually dealing with trauma and, healing and showing up for yourself. Then I've got my email list. So my email list has 3 pieces of content that goes out every week. And that is an email on a Monday that is the like structural backbone, giving people information, helping people grow their businesses. And then the Wednesday, the podcast, like telling people about the podcast, giving them the key insights. And then my Friday roundup, which is the biggest wins of the week, and giving people this YouTube content. So in every single piece of content that I write, I'm trying to link. I'm trying to link all of the different platforms. I'm trying to link everything back together and make sure that my core pillars go over everything. It's not a case of, oh, I need pillars for Instagram, and then I need pillars for my email list, and then I need pillars for my YouTube and pillars for my podcast, and pillars all over the place. No, you need 4 core pillar ideas, and then everything else sits in those areas. So if you go back and you look through the YouTube content, or you look through the emails that you've received from me if you're on the email list, or you look through my social media content, you will see a consistency in what I am talking about. You will see a consistency in the pillars that are coming across. And this is really, really important because this way you can make topics that align with your brand, that align with your audience interests, that align with the thing that you want to sell and how you want to show up in the world and what you want to create. And because all of this stuff starts to align, your content becomes so much easier to create. So when we look at an actual content calendar, there's a real key piece here, which is around consistency. So when you create your content calendar, don't look at it and think, I need to go from 0 to 100 all at once. And I need to, start a YouTube channel and have a podcast and send 3 emails and do social media every day and have multiple accounts. And like, no, 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 no. You want to start with one thing. So I started with my Instagram. I got my Instagram up and running. I got really comfortable with posting content. And then I opened up my email list. Once my email list was up and running and I was sending regular emails, then I moved on and I started the YouTube channel. I played around with the YouTube channel for quite a while, getting it into the structure and the flow that I liked. And then once the YouTube channel was flowing and working and I was really happy with the content creation, I then added the podcast, which is the most recent vibe. And then as I was going through, obviously the podcast then has its own Instagram page. The Fearless You Retreats has its own Instagram page. So in theory, as I sit right now, I manage 3 separate Instagram accounts, a podcast that has weekly episodes, a YouTube channel with weekly episodes, and an email account that has 3 emails that goes out every week. And it's so easy. It is so easy. And the reason is because I've got this amazing schedule and this amazing calendar that tells me exactly what I'm supposed to be creating. It tells me what I'm supposed to be recording for YouTube, who is the podcast guest that we're going to be sharing out into the world. It tells me what content I need to be putting on all of my social media. And all of this is literally just done in a spreadsheet. Okay, you can use a Trello board, you can use Asana, you can use any type of mapping software that you want, but a simple spreadsheet is all you actually need. I do mine on Google Sheets so that I can open it anywhere that I am on my phone and see what content is coming up and what I need to do and what I need to create and what I need to film. But literally, you want to start with one thing and then build out your content and your calendar as you go. So, say you're going to start with social media, with Instagram. You want to say, what is the most consistent I can be every single week? So, for instance, you might say, I'm going to post 3 pieces of content every single week. That is going to be on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And one of those is going to be a reel, one of those is going to be a carousel, and one of those is going to be a static post. Okay, perfect. Perfect. That's all that you need to start with. Then you're going to say, okay, Monday of week 1 is going to be content pillar 1. Wednesday is going to be content pillar 2. Friday is going to be content pillar 3. And then the following Monday is going to be content pillar 4. And then we're going to just rotate through those 4 content pillars through those 3 days that we post. This way, we are bringing in all of our relevant content pillars that are relevant to your business. We are bringing in the different types of content that we can post. And we can also pull in, for instance, like Monday's educational, Wednesday's inspirational. Friday is like entertaining, or that it's a customer feedback, or like however you want to structure this. It's just about feeling into what feels good for you. And then the really key thing is that when you start to build your structure, you start to think about repurposing content. Now, I wish that I'd started repurposing content so much sooner in my journey. I made my life way harder than it needed to be for like the first probably 4 years of my business, because I had this weird idea that I could only use an idea once, and I could only share something once, and I could only use a video once, and I could only use a a model once, and everything had to be new and flashy and great. And it's just not how it works. It's just not how it works. Like, realistically, you could take one blog post that you've written on your website and repurpose that into content on your social media. You could take, like, I take clips from the podcast and I use them on my social media. I have got videos from the retreat that I use on my core social media and on the retreat social media. I have got so many things that I can do, and even to the point where I can take this content from this video and I can pull out the key themes and I can use it to write an email for my email list. So it's not a case of how do we do all of these things? It's a case of how do we do one thing really well and then utilize that multiple times. So, for instance, I will always have the YouTube topic and the email and an email that I send out be the same topic. So I'll record the YouTube and then I'll use that content for a topic in my email list. I will always go through and recycle my hooks and my content on my social media and my videos. So I will literally go through a phase where I will be filming B-roll and short clips for reels, literally day in, day out. I'll film like 3 or 4 a day, especially during the summer months where I feel really like happy and I'm outdoors and I'm doing loads of fun things. I'll film loads of content. And then in the winter months, I will just go back into my library of content and I will just pull and say, okay, I'm going to use that clip today. I haven't used that clip in about 3 or 4 months. I'm going to use that clip today. And the same with my hooks. I've got a list of 150 hooks that I have built up over a period of time. And I will re-jump into that list and repersonalize and, give a new angle. But the core hook is always the same. The core idea and the content pillars that it fits into, like all of that stuff stays the same, which makes this whole process so much easier. The same as, like, I will create a reel And then I will go through and I will take those reels and I will pull out key quotes and put them into static cards. I will pull out like models and turn them into carousels. Like you can repurpose so much of your content so that you don't have to continuously recreate from scratch. The beauty of this as well is that once you get to the point of earning money in your business, you can actually outsource this repurposing to somebody else, which is so incredible. Now, the big thing with content is this overwhelm. People always say to me, I feel so overwhelmed when I need to create content. I don't know what to create. I don't know like how to do this, what to do this. And hopefully some of the stuff we've spoken about up until now absolutely serves you. But I want to talk about three really, really key things when it comes to overwhelm. So one is batch creation. You do not need to create content every single day. You can batch create your content. And I do this. So I sit down and I will write 4 emails in one go. So my month of emails is done. I will have another day that I then sit down and I record all 4 YouTube videos. The podcast, I've got guests recorded. So right now we are in July. I've got guests recorded all the way through to the mid of October already, and more guests lining up to come and be part of that podcast. So very soon, probably by August, I will be recorded all the way into the new year. And then I can close down recordings until the new year and just start building a wait list. How incredible is that? I sit down and I create 2 or 3 weeks worth of social media content for the retreat, for the podcast, for the main channel. Literally, you can sit down and you can batch create. I batch create like writing hooks and writing captions so that when I do create a reel, even if I do it in the moment, I'm literally just copy and pasting that caption, copy and pasting that hook, and just pulling in a video and finding an audio. Like it makes the process of creating a reel so much quicker because I'm batch creating and streamlining the whole process. So rather than every single day or every single week having to go through this whole process of, oh, I need to set up everything so I can film and I need to make sure that my hair looks good and I need to, make sure all of my scripts are written. I literally say, okay, on a Tuesday, like first Tuesday or second Tuesday of a month, I'm sitting down and I'm filming everything for the YouTube channel. Then on, a Monday, I'm sitting down and writing all of my emails. And this means that I might have one week that's a little bit busy if I choose to do this all in one week. But then once it's done, I've got 3 or 4 weeks to focus on other things, to focus on sales, to focus on money making, to focus on growth. And I've got all of this good omnipresent content that's going out in all of these places and keeping me in front of people. This is like the key thing that I want to get through to you. The other idea here is this idea of having realistic goals. So making sure that you are not overstretching when you first start. Okay, so we're going to go for quality over quantity. And if you can only post twice a week when you first start, do that. Instagram doesn't care how often you post, it cares that you are consistent in your posting. So if you, post for 7 days in a row and then don't post for 5 and then post for 7 again and then don't post for 3 and then post for 2 and then don't post, like that is not going to be helpful to your Instagram algorithm. Whereas if you say, okay, I'm going to write really good pieces of content and I'm going to post twice a week or 3 times a week for, the next 3 months. And then once I'm really comfortable and I've got a really good plan in place, then I'm going to add in another day and I'm going to do 4. And then I'm going to add in another day and I'm going to work up to 5. And then once I'm at 5, I'm going to add in another stream. You don't have to do this super fast. There's no rush. There's no like goal that you have to meet. You're not behind. There's no way that you can like do this wrong. You just have to be realistic with yourself. Look at your other commitments. Look at, are you working still? And you need to fit this in around work. Are you a mom that's caring? Are you caring for an elderly relative? Like, are you just living life and doing other things? And and you be realistic with yourself as to what this looks like. The other thing is to then also look at that support system. So this can be a technical system. So, when I film, for instance, I always have, especially with a podcast, transcript like turned on. So I get a summary and I get a transcript and it writes um the highlights up for me. And that makes it so much easier to then turn that into content when I'm going and I'm creating on other platforms. The same with this. When I'm doing this, I take this, I transcribe the audio, I use that to then write an email. I like repurpose everything through the system, and it can be so much help. And then the other part of the system is to say, actually, I'm going to hire somebody to help me. So I'm going to reach out and say, actually, can you please create 30 static graphics for my Instagram that are all branded using content like these 30 posts that I have, like 30 quotes that I've written? Or can somebody create you, like take a blog that you've done and then write you an email and some captions? Or can somebody take a video and cut it down into shorts for your social media that you can share really kind of deep educational content? There are so many things that you can do, so many things, and there are so many people who can help you. You can reach out to social media VAs, like absolutely. You can reach out to graphic designers to do content and like graphic creation. Like there are so many people who can help, and a lot of the time, like it doesn't even cost as much as you think. The very first time I went out and got support, I got somebody to create me 30 social media graphics for my Instagram. This was like back in probably maybe like 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. And literally, I found a graphic designer. She was incredible. She was so good. I literally gave her a workbook that I'd created. She went and pulled different quotes out of that. And she literally charged me like under £200 to create 30 graphics, like a full month of content. And at that point, I wasn't even posting daily. I was posting every second day. So it was actually 2 months worth of graphics for me. And it just took the pressure off of like one more thing I had to think about. So if you're really struggling, like absolutely now is the time to go and look at this. You can also use things like batch creating in Canva. If you don't know how to do that, drop a comment below and I'll put a little video up for you on how you do that. But like you can literally take like 30 quotes in a CSV file, create a template, batch create it in Canva in like 2 minutes, and you've got posts and statics to share because you've got a system in place. Okay. So ask yourself, what is this system? How can I create this system? Every step of the way, how can I create a system so that this becomes a manageable thing forevermore? So the reason that I can post on so many different platforms so consistently and send out so many emails and do the podcast and do YouTube and do all of these things is because I've got the system in place that makes it possible. Okay. So really, I want you to think about that. Now, let's do a little recap before we close down. So I really want you to understand that this whole process, this whole idea of creating content doesn't have to be overwhelming. You can set the parameters exactly how you want it to be. And remember that you're creating content for your community. You're creating content for a purpose. There are people who are waiting to hear what you have to say, who are literally sitting there saying, oh my gosh, I need to hear this. I want to hear this. And all they're waiting for is for you to create this content. So go out, do this, create this, show up for yourself, show up for your business, show up for your customers. It doesn't have to be hard. It gets to be as easy as you choose to let it be, okay? Now, if you want more content like this, you know that I create loads. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like this video. Tell me your biggest struggle with content creation, and maybe I'll create a video for you in the future. It is so incredible to have you as part of this journey. And if you haven't before, you can have a look in the caption because we have got so many good resources that can help you get started. So make sure that you're checking them out. Make sure that you're listening to the podcast over on any of your favorite platforms, The Diary of Discovery with Jackie Clark. And I cannot wait to see you next week and talk to you more about how you can grow your business.